Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast at 9.
A place to be family,
a place to make friends,
a place to explore faith.
Hi, this week's hashtags are hashtag proof, hashtag evidence, and hashtag witness.
this week, unbelievers.
Good morning, everyone. You know, behind our farm is a very high hill. It is very rocky and not at all easy to climb, even if you are a sheep. It's okay if you're a goat, though. They are really great at climbing. Well, last week, Lonk's little lamb, although she's not that little anymore, came proudly over to us all to tell us that she had climbed all the way to the top on her own. Well, I have to say, some of us weren't sure she was being truthful. It is such a big climb. You'd have to be very sure-footed to be able to do it. Only a few of our flock have ever even had a go at it, and even fewer have made it. So you can understand how the flock weren't sure she was being honest. But she was adventurous, we knew that. Anyway, she could see we were doubtful, so she said she had someone who had seen her do it, and she ran off to fetch Kiko, the goat. Now, goats, in case you didn't know, are very truthful animals, and we all know Kiko, and know she doesn't tell lies. So, when she came back with Lonk's lamb and told us that, yes, she had made it all the way to the top on her own, well, we knew then that it was true. Well done to her. Well, even when Jesus was on earth, there were some people who didn't believe who he was, the Son of God, despite the miracles he did, and despite all the wise teaching. But in our reading today, Jesus talks about his witnesses, those who know and confirm that he was who he says he was. So, listen carefully to our reading and see if you can pick out who those witnesses were. And then, in our talk this morning, we're going to learn more. Well, enjoy the rest of Breakfast at 9. Bye then. See you next week.
This reading is from John chapter 5, verses 31 to 47. If I testify on my own behalf, what I say is not to be accepted as real proof. But there is someone else who testifies on my behalf, and I know that what he says about me is true. John is the one to whom you sent your messengers, and he spoke on behalf of the truth. It is not that I must have a human witness. I say this only in order that you may be saved. John was like a lamp, burning and shining, and you were willing for a while to enjoy his light. But I have a witness on my behalf which is even greater than the witness that John gave. What I do, that is, the deeds my Father gave me to do. These speak on my behalf and show that the Father has sent me. And the Father who sent me also testifies on my behalf. You have never heard his voice or seen his face, and you do not keep his message in your hearts, for you do not believe in the one whom I sent. You study the Scriptures because you think that in them you will find eternal life, and these very Scriptures speak about me. Yet you are not willing to come to me in order to have life. I am not looking for human praise, but I know what kind of people you are, and I know that you have no love for God in your hearts. I have come with my Father's authority, but you have not received me. When, however, someone comes with his own authority, you will receive him. You like to receive praise from one another, but you do not try to win praise from the one who alone is God. How then can you believe me? Do not think, however, that I am the one who will accuse you to my Father. Moses, in whom you have put your hope, is the very one who will accuse you. If you had really believed Moses, you would have believed me, because he wrote about me. But since you do not believe what he wrote, how can you believe what I say?
So, what did you make of Sheep's story today? Do you want to know what I think? I think these sheep are crazy. Climbing steep hills like that? That's downright dangerous. Especially for a little lamb. No, those sheep should stay on firm ground on their grassy patch with their dandelions and leave the hills to other animals. It's no wonder that no one believed the little lamb's story when she said she'd managed to get to the very top of the steep hill. No wonder. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us that Jesus climbed any steep hills. But Jesus said and did a lot of other things that people found hard to believe. And just like the sheep in our story didn't believe the little lamb story, so there were many people, unbelievers, who found it hard to believe what Jesus had said. Now, remember what the sheep did? Yes, they got themselves a witness. And that witness was Kiko the goat. And that happens in court today as well. In certain cases, a witness, one or more witnesses, are called in to stand and to testify to what they saw, just like Kiko did. And in Sheep's story, because Kiko was able to testify to what had happened, that little lamb did indeed manage to get all the way to the top of that steep hill, the sheep believed. And so, we come to today's story. It's a story about witnesses. And it starts in verse 31. Jesus admits by himself, I can't be a witness for myself because no one will believe me. It's the same for me. I could tell you, for example, that I have climbed a steep hill too. I could tell you that I have climbed Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world. Would you believe me? Well, maybe some of you would. Maybe some of you wouldn't. But what if someone had come with me? What if someone had accompanied me on this journey? What if he'd managed to get to the very top of Mount Everest, taken a little selfie of the two of us, or 3 or 5, come back down, and presented you with a photograph? Then you would believe, because there were witnesses. And the people who went with me up Mount Everest would be able to tell everyone, yes, Rich did go and manage to climb Mount Everest. And that means that the story becomes believable. Now, as Jesus says, if I testify about myself, it's not true. He doesn't mean that he's lying about himself, but what he's saying is, if it's just my story, then you have no reason to believe me. You might as well say it's not true. And never once in the Bible does Jesus say, believe me because I say so. No. He says, I've got other witnesses. I've got witnesses who are able to testify to what I am saying and who are willing to confirm that what I'm saying is true. Now, in today's story, we're going to talk about 3 witnesses. 3 witnesses that Jesus almost calls into the stand as if he were in court. 3 witnesses who are able to testify that Jesus is who he says he is. And if you remember last week's story, Jesus says he is God himself and he is the Son of God. And these are the witnesses we are talking about today. Number 1. Jesus points at John the Baptist. He says about John the Baptist that he has testified to the truth. And if you remember a good few weeks back now, near the beginning of the Gospel of John, the text says that God sent his messenger, a man named John. Now, the religious leaders and the Jewish authorities, they knew of John. They'd heard of him, they'd interacted with him, they'd seen him, and they'd seen and heard John for themselves. And as a result, Jesus is saying, you should believe what I am saying. Not because it's me who's saying it, but because there is John the Baptist who came before me, who told you all about me. He saw that I was there. He pointed you in my direction. It's not me saying it. Listen to what John the Baptist said. Listen to the prophecies that he said about me. That's our first witness. Our second witness, witness number 2, are the works of Jesus. The things he did, especially the miracles that he worked. And the text in our today's Bible story in verse 36 says, it's a witness even greater than John. So even more powerful. And Jesus talks about, doesn't he, the deeds that the Father gave me to do. And remember that earlier in the chapter, Jesus had just healed a paralyzed man, a man who couldn't walk, who was completely immobile. Jesus had healed him. That is one of the miracles that Jesus worked. And Jesus is saying that that itself testifies that Jesus is who he says he is. It's proof that he has the power of God to heal people, to bring about change in people's lives, and therefore that Jesus is real, that he's the real deal, that everything he says is true, because what he does is empowered by God the Father. So that was our second witness. Witness number 3, the scriptures, the Bible, the Old Testament text. Now, Jesus is saying here that the Jews are studying the Bible without seeing and believing what is being said about him. They are just not seeing Jesus in the words that they are reading. Remember, the Jews at that time were looking for a king who would come in with pomp and glory and reign and power. And for the Jews, the word Messiah meant a promised deliverer of Israel as a nation, someone who would liberate them from the Roman oppression, who would establish Israel once more as a powerful and independent nation, being able to determine its own course. That was the idea that the Jews had about the Messiah. Someone who would deliver Israel from their oppressors. But that's not the kind of Messiah that Jesus is. No, Jesus is the Messiah who promised to deliver people from sin and from separation from God. Yes, it is a liberation, but not in the way the Jews were expecting it to be. Jesus promises us to deliver us from sin and from the oppression and the separation from God. So those are our three witnesses in today's story. Not what Jesus said, no, what was said about him. John the Baptist told everyone that Jesus was about to come and begin his ministry. He pointed people at Jesus. He was a witness. The miracles that Jesus worked, all the things that are recorded in the Bible that we can read about, the miracles, the miracle of the paralyzed man being healed. And finally, everything that the Bible says about God's great plan to save us from our sin and from our separation from God through Jesus. Jesus says, it's all written down right here. It's in front of your very eyes. But you are so blinded that you can't see me in amongst all those words. And if you think about these things, quite a few of these are still objections that people have today, aren't they? People who are not yet believers, who are finding it hard to believe the stories and the evidence. And what we can say as Christians is to encourage them to go back to the Bible and read it through the eyes of Jesus. Read it looking for the hints and the clues that are all over the Bible about the coming of Jesus, about his works, about the miracles that he would do, and how he would enable us to be reunited with the God who loves us. We can also tell our own stories. And quite often you will hear the word testimony being mentioned when Christians tell their story about how God came into their lives and changed them. A testimony by a Christian is someone just telling their story about how they got to know Jesus, how Jesus changed their life, and how different things are for them right now. So we can tell others our story, and maybe the story we tell them will help them understand and begin to get to know Jesus for themselves. Remember, there is plenty of evidence. There are plenty of witnesses. All we have to do is talk about it.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and he holds us in his hands. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and he holds us in his hands. He is higher than a skyscraper, and he's deeper than a submarine. troubled times, it's you I see. I put you first, that's all I need. I humble all I am, all to you. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. You're the only one, you're the only one, you're the only one that I could live for. You're the only one, you're the only one, you're the only one that I could live for. You were always, always there, every how and everywhere. Your grace abounds so deeply within me. You will never ever change. Yesterday, today, the same. Forever till forever meets no end. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. Are you having fun? Well, what we're gonna do now is we're all gonna get down nice and low. That's it, how low can you go? And we're gonna sing, you are the way, the truth and the life. Come on, let me hear ya. You are the way, the truth and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you. We're living all for you. Up a bit higher. You are the way, the truth and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you. We're living all for you. You are the way. You are the way, the truth and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you. We're living all for you. You are the way, the truth and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you. We're living all for you. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. Come on!
And now join me for our family prayer. Our Father in heaven, may your holy name be honoured. May your kingdom come. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the food we need. Forgive us the wrongs we have done, as we forgive the wrongs that others have done to us. Do not bring us to hard testing, but keep us safe from the evil one. Amen.
Well, good morning and welcome once again to the Breakfast at 9 Wave. We have one or two more individuals who have joined us and some special guests who are making an appearance. So we're delighted just to be able to share this experience with you. It's been lovely actually just to be able to see you and to see smiling faces and to wave. So if you haven't appeared in the wave and you'd like to, why don't you just film a short video, just 7 seconds or more, to breakfast@freshbrook.org, and we'll drop you into next week's wave compilation. So enjoy as we just wave to each other. Take care.
Family news. It's good to talk. Have you any news to share with each other? What have you done, or could you do, to help or encourage someone this week? What are you celebrating today, or in the coming week? Have you a birthday coming up? Or have you had a birthday this week? Is there anything you would like us to pray about or for? You can contact us by email, breakfast@freshbrook.org.
And now for our thought for the week. Do you believe the evidence? Some, however, did receive him and believed in him, so he gave them the right to become God's children. John chapter 1, verse 12.
And coming next week, Picnic by the Sea.
May the Lord bless you and take care of you. May the Lord be kind and gracious to you. May the Lord look on you with favour and give you peace.
Bye then! See you next week!
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore. Safe to shore. Safe to shore. will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are my light, my lighthouse, my lighthouse, shining in the darkness. I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, my lighthouse. I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore.
Thank you.